This is Breaking Grounds, and we have Gal with us, and he will be talking on writing malware without writing code. So it's time. Gal?
Hi. Thank you for staying up so late. What we're about to see today here is a very nice experiment I did. I need to answer some of my questions to my own when I try to think about what I'm about to write to this year's CFP. And I ended up with this nice project I called Lazy Ass. This is like why we have this image like over there. This talk is about my experiment of writing malware purely by copy-pasting stuff. The only thing I did which wasn't copy-paste was the main loop. We'll go through it as we like proceed. Okay, so a bit about the outline of the talk. We'll look a bit about like examples for in the wild copy-paste. Really short like go through of those examples. We'll do an intro to Lazy Ass, as you like seen this nice fellow, and then we'll talk about the results. I've actually tested this malware against like all types of AVs, next gen, alt gen, quantum computing gen, whatever gen, and I'll talk about the results a bit. Okay, so a bit about myself first. I'm a 29-year-old geek from Tel Aviv. I work for a startup called Minerva Labs. You can Google it if you want. You don't have to. I have experience with tons of stuff. I did some SCADA stuff, everything you can think about, scripting, whatever, you name it. I'm fluent in tons of exotic languages like C#, Ruby, Perl, and Arabic. Are there any Arabic speakers in the crowd? So, أهلا وسهلا فيكم نرحبكم بمناسبة أول يوم مؤتمر BSidesLV 2017. I hope I did it correctly. Yeah. Okay, so let's proceed now. If you want to ask me anything, that's my Twitter handle. Feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Okay, so why we are here talking about this copy-paste, no-coding malware. We have like examples for this exact thing from our daily life, where we have code which comes from good guys to bad guys. We have Pafish as an example. How many of you know Pafish, the paranoid fish? It's a good tool for detecting sandbox and VMs. And we had a case of Iranian APT group called the Copy Kittens, which just like copied and pasted stuff. And they actually took the entire code of Pafish and other stuff and embedded it into their malware. Good guys code going to bad guys code. Best example, yeah, you've guessed, atom bombing. The guys who did atom bombing are just right now in the underground across the hall. It was adopted by Dridex. And they say that Dridex used it before. I don't know. Judge for yourself. And horrible case in my opinion. Of course, there are all of those Stack Overflow and Ruhitab and all of those websites, which are great place to find how to code like malware. And there's also like adaptations of like bad guys code to bad guys code. They have all kinds of forums in Russian mostly. I've learned how to read Russian from those forums a bit. I can like say, oh, it's like Nash Jabber server up there, and yeah. So they just like copy paste code in between them. It's just like the simplest injection you can think about down here. Yeah. And of course, we have like bad guys code to bad guys code, like a Carburp and Zeus, the source leaked. And well, yeah. Well, once the source is leaked, everybody are using their techniques, and you can guess like how it goes, like the rest of it. Like the backdoor is rebuilt, and this technique is adopted by others, etc., etc. And there's like a third category, the hidden tier, I like to call it a category, where it's not like bad guys, but they're actually bad guys because they created ransomware for educational purposes. And I think that you have like dozens of crappy, sorry for the word, ransomware, which is like hidden tier in any kind of package you can think about. Again, like copy paste and repack, and bad for us. So how I come up with the idea to build LazyS? As I said, I thought about what I'm about to write like this year for the CFP. I want to be here in Vegas, and the only way I can like get this trip is if I have like a good talk, and then I'll convince my employer to send me here. So I had like all of those thoughts. We are living in a world where there's like a large like conversation, is next gen the best? All gen, it is easy to bypass everything, bypass this one, bypass that one. Well, I don't like all of those stupid questions with no answer. I just like want to have like my own real answer, which is a result of an experiment to it. I declare this talk a cheese-free zone. No cheesy statements will be thrown here. Only results of actual research I did in this case. So I decided to build LazyS. I took copy-paste art to the extreme, and I created a malware built entirely out of copy-paste code. We'll see it like shortly. Don't worry. First, I thought about what I wanted to have in this malware. You can see it's just like a shopping list of any malware you can think about. Well, yeah, I just like wanted to have everything in it. It's like a rat, a wiper, I don't know, banking Trojan, whatever. And then I thought about a few ground rules. First, do no harm. We are the cavalry, as you know. We have this track over there. I think it's over there. I don't want this malware to do bad to anyone. I don't want it to be the next hidden tier. I don't want to be the next atom bombing. I actually had like serious moral issues with myself about it. So it was compiled into a console app. You have like a visible console in this malware at the moment. There are some bugs I am aware of, which are a bit like, it's not easy to spot them, but it will crash the malware. I didn't fix them like on purpose. So be aware that it is not perfect as a result of like my will not to make it perfect. So don't use it as is, just like enjoy the experiment. So I started with doing only copy paste, but then I understood that I need to make a main loop. The main loop is the only thing which I didn't copy paste. And well, it's like, it went perfectly, so I kind of stuck to it. Other parts are maybe sometimes slightly modified. In some cases, I added some like C and C++ functions. I need to change like the string type so it will compile, which was one of the most like challenging stuff in this like project, but nothing like more than that. I allowed myself to combine different sources in one function. I could have like nested my logic. It was a lot of fun. I had like a lot of thought. What technology I want to use? I had like Python, .NET, and each one of those had like its own advantages. In the end, I selected like a combination of mostly C and C++, and a bit of VBScript, and well, also a bit of like Batch, because I allowed myself to do a system and how to CMD that. I just like makes sense. It's just like the same as copy pasting stuff. I just wrapped it with a nice system call. And yeah. So a bit about the scope of the test before we dive in. I didn't handle the infection vector, again, because I don't want to create the next APT, and because it just doesn't really matter. We have amazing frameworks which are pretty simple. You have like Veil and other stuff. You can have like all of those PowerShell cradles to download it. It's not that interesting. Those frameworks are amazing. I really like them. They're simple and working, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean that I'm being lazy, because if I, like for example, use PowerShell, I could have loaded my DLL directly from the memory and be even more stealthy. I didn't want to. I just like want to test it as plain as it can be. I didn't check it against any kind of network security products because I didn't want to have like this enormous setup only for this talk. And I also, sorry, yeah, that's all. That just goes in malware. As a base to my malware, I use the reflective DLL loader. I guess that many of you already know this project. It's the most basic reflective code injection project. You have an inject.exe, and you have a DLL which is like can be injected to the inject.exe itself, or to any other process which is injectable, which means it has like the same. You have the privileges to inject to it. Very simple. I just like injected in my experiment. I injected the DLL to myself, and I contacted the C2 server, and I just like got orders. What you might expect, like any normal malware will do. Next. I got the orders over HTTP, and I sent exfiltrated the files over FTP. We'll see it up next. And again, everything was dead simple. Things you can copy paste from GitHub, from Stack Overflow, as I did. This is actually my C2 server. I also copy pasted my C2 server. This like HTML over here is my C2 server. You can see the 301 over here. This is like the opcode. I'm just like the malware browses to this website over HTTP, and it depends on this number, the opcode that will be executed. This is like part of the main loop. You can see like 310, 311. I guess the guys on the back can't, but it's just like, again, very simple. And I even copy pasted the C2 server. Let's go through some of the modules. Yeah, we have plenty of time. Let's start with the screenshot grabber. It's like the best case for why building this stuff is that simple. I stumbled upon a library which is called the GDI+. How many of you knows what GDI+ is? Yeah, I see no hands. I also don't know what GDI+ is. So instead of like going through all of this like Microsoft documentation, understanding what is GDI and what are the functions, how can they be called, and no, I just like went to this GitHub gist, and I just like cut and paste the snippet, and I had a screen grabber module. Amazing. It took me about like 15 minutes to find the snippet. And afterwards, it took me about 15 seconds to copy and paste it and just like compile. By the way, the entire process of writing this malware took me about, I think, 48 hours. It was, and most of the time was about compiling C and C++ together. So, yeah. It was a major struggle for me. And this like was a good example. Keylogger, well, I just like went for the simplest keylogging you can think about, the most straightforward implementation. Actually, it was the first result on Google, how to C++ keylogger. I tried to dumb this down as much as possible. I simulated like the process that the malware writer will do if he has like no expertise, or maybe he has and he tries to do something easily and cheaply. First result on Google. And the same applies for like FTP exfiltration. Again, guys on the back, I think it's a bit too small for you, but I just like searched how to FTP upload, and this was the first result. And I tried to be a bit cheeky here, so I took an FTP implementation, a VBS implementation of the how to upload FTP, and I thought about it will have like good reputation, because a lot of like IT guys may be using it, and it actually worked quite good. Also here it's an example for kind of adaptations I was like obliged to do. I don't know if you can see it, but you have like the username and password over here, and like the address of the server. Of course, those are parameters that I needed to edit. I can't like copy paste the address of my C2 server, of course, but also it was another challenge. I needed to combine escaping for C++ and VBS together. I don't know how many of you know, but I think that like in C it is like backslash quotes in order to like escape quotes, and in VBS it's like free quotes. So when I integrated those together, I need like backslash quotes, backslash quotes, backslash quotes for each quote. Major challenge, but one of the like the most challenging stuff I had like in this project. Ransomware. Let's think a bit. I have like also a ransomware module. Let's think a bit about what is ransomware. It's going through all of your files and then encrypting them. Going through the files, yeah, I found like a very simple implementation which uses a find file, findx file, etc. Again, the most basic how to recursively find file C++. Amazingly simple, and then you need to encrypt the file. So I did how to encrypt a file, and Microsoft to the rescue. Yeah. By the way, there's an arrow over there. You can see that it's an example C program, and then you have a C++ program, but who cares? It works, yeah. I found an error in MSDN. Kudos for me. And again, I have like the benefit of this being a very like legitimate code. I think that there are a lot of like legitimate products copy pasting it because, well, it's like the MSDN example of doing it. Everybody are copy pasting from MSDN. Malware writers as well, I guess. This is my case. This is where I got a bit like more creative. I searched for how I can trigger a boot loop. I found like this is from, again, from server fault, not MSDN, sorry, in this case. I went to MSDN, and then I found like that I can copy paste some of the parameters this way. So I don't know how many of you can read from the back there, but this line is just like creating a scheduled task to reboot your machine every minute. Yeah, so, and it starts to count the minutes from the moment that Windows starts up. So you don't have time to like enter a password or something. You have no chance beside like using live CD. If you have a non-encrypted hard drive, and it will just like brick your machine effectively. Again, simply by copy pasting stuff. I actually tried it on my own machine by mistake, and yeah, I was lucky enough to have it on like not on my dev machine, and on like a stupid machine which didn't have like hard drive encryption, so I was able to actually I like renamed shutdown XZ to another thing, and then I won. So yeah, BSOD. It was like the most difficult one to implement. I just like wanted to have the ability to trigger BSOD on my victim. It was the hardest copy paste job. Why? Because it was from YouTube. So I needed actually like to write it down. Yeah. It took me like 5 minutes. And then 5 more minutes to understand how to import NTDLL to my like project. Again, that was pretty simple. So now I have even the ability to trigger BSOD. Antis, anti-VM, anti-sandbox, anti-whatever. I just like copy-pasted Perfish. Again, Perfish, which I talked about before. And it's a really good project. The copy kittens from the third slide also used it. This from VirusTotal. They also changed it a bit. They access the URLs in the picture, and the function in Perfish which detects VMs that they discovered that were triggered. Its ID over here was reported back to the server this way by contacting this URL. I, unlike a real malware writer, did a bit of a trollish thing. Yeah, nice animation. And instead of quietly terminating, as real malware writers will do, I just like did another nice trick and go into the repository and check it out. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Persistency, well, the simplest persistency method you can think about. There are tons of persistency mechanisms. I try to go as simple as possible. I just like went to the registry, and yeah, you know it. There's no reason to do anything else. I actually did a user scope persistency instead of like going to HKLM because I didn't want to rely on the fact that I'm an administrator. So, yeah. And now to movie time. This is a really quick talk, so we're not going to do it live, but it's going to be as good as live. This is the victim. It's a bit clipped on the side, but it doesn't really matter. And I think I'll need to click it like this. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm double-clicking right now in the movie on the inject exe. The DLL is loaded to itself. It's now in the no-op mode. I'm changing 301, which is no-op, to 302, which is like demo mode. Pop up a window now, and now we're going back to the victim. A window pops. Lazy ass is in the house. Yeah. We can like know that, oh, okay, we have communication, everything is okay right now. Let's go further. Let's try something more interesting. 308. 308 is keylogger. And now I start a keylogger. You can see that in the temp folder, there's like a local keylogger right now, which is being written. It's perflog.txt. It's pretty small. You won't be able to see it. But now I'm browsing to Hackme Bank, which is just like Acme Bank, but even better. My favorite bank. In the meantime, the attacker wants to know, I wonder where my victim browsed to. So he changes the opcode to 306, which is bring me the keylogging file. Is exfiltrated. You can see that the VB script is written for a second, then it is deleted after a second. Deleted. And let's go back to the attacker. The attacker has the exfiltrated file, perflog.txt, and you can see Hackme Bank, surprise, surprise. Again, it's not surprising because it is simple, it is working. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. And now he wants to verify if he actually browsed the website. He's changing the opcode to 311, which is take a screenshot. Again, simplest code. Screenshot is taken. And yeah. And now just like, oh, I had like what I want from this victim. Let's just now troll him a bit. I'm triggering the BSOD, opcode 312. And voila. BSOD. Yeah. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, lazy ass. But it's not the end, no. It's just like the first part. Let's talk business. When I wrote down this talk, I wanted to speak about all of the vendors out there. I thought that I will name them like yellow, red, teal, green, quad-color, and nobody ever will guess who are those vendors. Nobody will sue me. Yeah, nobody will guess who quad-color is. But then I read this blog. I don't know how many of you did, but they have like this nice paragraph about how all of the vendors, like at least like the next-gen vendors, had like serious issues, legal issues with the attempt to bypass or to prove that next-gen solutions are not perfect. And this kind of like made me afraid, and I didn't want to go all the way through it, so I'm not going to name any names, but it doesn't really matter why. I tested all of it, of course. I tested all the modules, etc., but it doesn't really matter because test setup is like the simplest you can think about. This is like the template which I created for any vendor to be tested. And I thought about, yeah, you know how you make those presentations, you make this template, and then you duplicate the slide like 12 times, and then you edit afterwards which model was prevented and detected and which wasn't. And this is the table I got from my test. Green means like the AV didn't detect anything. Next gen, all gen, whatever gen. It was just like bypassing everything. It was a real shock to me. I knew that it will bypass most of the stuff, but it was real shocking for me. So I didn't need any more like of the slides. And I'm still shocked a bit, sorry. A couple of the vendors detected it. It's actually like a funny story. It is like here in the interesting results section. I had one case where the next gen actually detected, oh yeah, the first one is even more funny because I had the inject.exe, I slightly modified it, and then suddenly one of the vendors detected as malicious because it has bad reputation. The inject.exe, the original one, has amazing reputation because it is like on tens of thousands of endpoints all over the world, I guess. So once I change it, it doesn't like have the same reputation. I guess that it is, I can only guess, it is like hash-based reputation. Awful way to do stuff. Another interesting thing, one of the next-gen vendors actually detected my injector.exe as malicious. So I just like took the DLL, which is injected, and compiled it as an executable, and I replaced the DLL attach as I just like switch it to be the main function, and yeah, again, easy win. Again, very surprising, very upsetting, and well, let's go to the answers part. And now I could have answered them, like my own questions. Is it that easy to, you know, to bypass all AVs? Can I just like copy paste my way to glory? So a 5-year-old can copy paste stuff and do some serious damage, but doing it right, compiling it in a complex C, C++ combination, adding batch and VB, this requires skills. I have experience both as dev and both as researcher for years now, and if I didn't have like my experience both as a dev and both as a researcher, knowing how to avoid the AVs on one hand, and on the other hand, how to compile all of this like annoying W string T-char combination, I won't succeed. I wouldn't have succeeded in this mission. It wasn't that easy, as you might have guessed. And my most important, like, say out of this talk, yeah, next gen is cool, it is great, it works, but it has issues. It is not perfect. It doesn't prevent 100% of the malware. Example, this malware, it is the simplest malware that you can build, and it didn't detect it. This goes like to the next part, advice for blue teams. How many of you consider themselves blue teamers? I am too, by the way. I'm also a blue teamer, at least like in my day job. And we need to solve it, solve it somehow. And my like best advice is having an in-depth security approach and having like multiple products, one to cover the network, one sandbox. This, I guess, that malware which was poorly written will trigger any kind of sandbox flag you can think about. If it will be like statically analyzed. I used no obfuscators, no nothing, by the way. It was just like copy, pasted, compiled, and well, you need to have multiple security products to cover the gaps. And this is my advice for blue teamers. And this is the address, so you can take pictures of, like, I guess the URL if you want to. I don't care. Yeah, of course that there's a disclaimer on the website. Use it for good. It has bugs. So if you use it for like bad stuff, so you'd get caught. So I'm all good with it. And also the pictures, okay. And oh, this is like the credits thing. Yeah. And we can go actually to the questions. Everything is on the like the repo. You have all the URLs and everything. And yeah, there's actually like another slide for credits. Yeah, everything is on the repository. It's okay. Yeah. And yeah, let's just skip directly to the questions. Oh.
So, Kal, we can take one question.
Okay.
And if we have time, we will take another.
Okay, you can feel free to approach me later or contact me on Twitter or something.
Questions? Thank you. I mean, we all are as lazy as you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.